I was 5 minutes late on purpose. Not because I'm mysterious, because arriving on time to a room full of people who already decided you're the joke is like walking onto a stage where the audience brought tomatoes. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The private room smelled like citrus cleaner and expensive perfume, trying to pretend it wasn't sweat. White tablecloths, low amber lighting, and that soft restaurant music that exists purely to fill the silence between lies. Lana was at the center, of course. She had that polished glow she saved for strangers. Hair perfect, lipstick sharp, smile designed to make you feel like you were lucky she tolerated you. Her friends were arranged around her like decorative knives. Tessa was there too, perched on the edge of her chair with a drink she wasn't enjoying. She laughed half a second after everyone else, like her face needed instructions. Her eyes flicked toward me once, fast, then away. Not guilt, exactly. More like she'd seen the trailer and knew how the movie ends. I took the empty chair at the far end. No one moved a plate. No one asked how work was. Their attention hit me and slid off, like I was a stain they'd already learned to ignore. I'm not dumb. I noticed what Lana wanted me to notice. The ringless hand on the glass stem, the way she held her phone screen down, the way she didn't look surprised that I showed up at all, as if my presence was part of the plan. I looked for the real reason. That's when I saw him. Evan sat too close to Lana for a man who was just a friend. Not shoulder-to-shoulder close. Worse, comfortable close, like he'd been there before, like he knew where the light switches were in her life. He wore an easy grin that didn't reach his eyes, and one of his wrists had a faded paper band, an amusement park wristband, the kind you'd only still have on if you wanted to remember the night, or prove it happened. He raised his glass at me in a small, casual salute. Not aggressive, not defensive, the kind of gesture you make when you want the other guy to feel childish for being upset. I gave him a nod back, calm, polite. Inside, my thoughts were less polite. Lana stood, tapping her glass with a spoon. The room quieted fast. Her friends leaned in like they were about to hear a confession at church. Lana didn't look at me when she spoke. She looked over me, beyond me, already living in the version of her life where I didn't take up space. She raised her glass and announced, "I gift myself a divorce." Her friends cheered. The sound was big and bright and ugly, the kind of cheer people do when they're not celebrating you. They're celebrating the permission to stop pretending they ever respected you. I took a slow sip of my drink. I didn't taste it. My body was too busy doing that quiet thing it does right before a crash, everything sharpening, everything slowing down. I said calmly, "Funny, she'll be gifting herself to your husband again after the party." Silence didn't fall. It snapped. Smiles froze on faces like someone hit pause. A few glasses froze mid-air. One woman's laugh cut off halfway out of her throat and turned into a cough she tried to hide in her napkin. Tessa's eyes went wide, then shut for a beat, like she'd just lost a bet she never wanted to make. Lana's expression stayed smooth, almost impressed, until it didn't. The tiniest twitch pulled at the corner of her mouth, a micro crack in the porcelain mask. Evan's grin stayed, but his jaw tightened. It was subtle, the kind of subtle men think counts as invisible. I didn't add anything. I didn't point at Evan. I didn't accuse Lana. I didn't beg. Begging is what the underdog does right before the credits roll and the villain wins. I stood, set my glass down, and stepped away from the table. Then I left without finishing my drink. The hallway outside the private room was colder, cleaner, realer. I walked past the hostess stand, past couples on dates who had no idea they were sharing oxygen with a small disaster. The valet stand was near the front doors, a thin line of tickets, a board attendant, a little metal tray. As I passed, I saw a ticket stub on the counter with a timestamp and a logo, tonight's date, and an earlier time than Lana told me she left home. A stupid detail. A tiny detail. The kind of detail that becomes a knife if you pick it up the right way. Outside, the night air tasted like rain that hadn't decided to fall yet. My phone vibrated twice in my pocket. I didn't check it. Not yet. I wanted the silence to last. I wanted to remember how it felt to walk away while they were still processing the moment they lost control, because that was the first time in a long time I'd felt anything like control. When I got home, I didn't turn on all the lights. I made coffee like it was morning because my body didn't understand what time was anymore. My hands were steady, which felt like a lie. I opened my laptop. Not because I wanted to torture myself, because when someone raises a glass and declares war, the next move isn't tears, it's proof. Lana and I still shared a cloud album, old vacations, birthdays, stupid selfies where we looked like a couple people might envy. I clicked into it, more out of habit than hope. Most recent uploads, a few blurred party photos, some group shots, a table full of cocktails and smiling mouths. Then, just for a second, a thumbnail popped in at the bottom of the grid. A video. The preview froze on a frame that didn't belong with the rest. Lana's profile in dim light. A hand on her back guiding her forward. A maintenance door with peeling paint. And on the wall beside it, a familiar faded sign. An off-season warning posted at the entrance of the closed amusement park outside town. The thumbnail flickered. Then the video vanished, replaced by empty space like it had never existed. My cursor hovered over nothing, my coffee sat untouched, and my phone lit up with Lana's name. I let it ring, because I wasn't ready to talk. I was ready to hunt. People think the worst part comes fast. A scream, a slap, a thrown glass. That's television logic. Real damage takes its time. It sits down beside you and waits until you're tired enough to listen. 2 days passed without Lana coming home. She sent messages, of course, carefully worded ones, concerned ones, the kind that read like evidence she planned to submit later. We should talk. You embarrassed me. I don't recognize you lately. I didn't reply. Silence makes liars nervous. They need friction to sell the story. On the third morning, at 8:17 a.m., someone knocked on my door. Not a polite knock, not angry either. 3 uneven taps, too close together. The knock of a person who didn't rehearse. I opened it to find Tessa. She looked smaller than she had at the restaurant, like confidence was something she borrowed for group settings and returned immediately afterward. Her sunglasses were too big for her face. Her hands were shaking, and she kept wiping them on her jeans like she was trying to erase fingerprints. I shouldn't be here, she said. I stepped aside. She came in like the house might reject her. We stood in the kitchen. Morning light spilled across the counter, highlighting things I hadn't bothered to put away. 2 mugs, 1 used, 1 clean. The quiet was loud enough to make her swallow hard. She pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. Not movie red, real red. The kind that comes from crying in short bursts so you don't attract attention. I didn't think you'd say that, she said. Say what? At the party. Her voice cracked on the word party like it tasted bad. You weren't supposed to say that. There it was. Not, I'm sorry. Not she hurt you. Just disappointment that I'd gone off script. Tessa sat without being asked. She wrapped her hands around the mug I pushed toward her but didn't drink. She stared into it like answers might rise from the steam. She lost control after you left, Tessa said. Lana. She smiled for about 30 seconds, then she locked herself in the bathroom. I pictured it easily. Lana alone with her reflection, practicing the face she'd need next. She said you were unstable, Tessa continued, that you'd been jealous for months, that she'd been scared. My mouth twitched. I didn't smile. She always says scared, I said. It plays well. Tessa flinched. She told us not to contact you, Tessa said. Said you'd twist things. And yet, I said gently. Tessa's shoulders slumped. Evan didn't like what you said. There it was again. Evan's name landed in the room like it belonged there. He called me, Tessa said, from a different number, told me I should remember who my friends are. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I waited. People tell the truth when they realize you're not going to interrupt them. He said if I talked, Tessa whispered, things I thought were private wouldn't stay that way. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen, trembling. I lied for her, she said. I covered. We all did. That's how it works. Girls' nights, work trips, spare keys that aren't spare. She looked up at me, eyes glossy. But I didn't know she was doing it there. Where? I asked. Her breath hitched. The park. The word landed heavy. The amusement park? I said. She nodded. Off season. Closed. She said it was safe. Said security was handled. A puzzle piece slid into place, clicking softly. When? I asked. Tessa glanced at the clock on my wall like it might explode. Saturday, around 9:30. Service entrance, the one near the old boardwalk. I didn't write it down. I didn't need to. She told us it was about control, Tessa said quickly, like she was racing a finish line. About not letting anyone own the story. She said men panic when they lose the narrative. I exhaled through my nose. She's not wrong. Tessa looked at me then. Really looked. You're not doing what she thinks you're doing. What does she think I'm doing? She swallowed. Breaking. I almost laughed. Almost. I walked her to the door. She hesitated on the threshold, then turned back. He followed me here, she said quietly. Evan? I asked. She nodded. I waited 3 seconds after she left before stepping onto the porch. Across the street, a dark sedan idled with its lights off. The engine sound was low, patient, watching. I raised my hand and waved. The sedan pulled away too fast. Tires chirped. Amateur. Inside, my phone buzzed. A message from Lana. Stop poisoning people against me. We need to talk. Another message appeared beneath it, typing bubbles flashing, then disappearing before it sent. I stared at the empty space where the words had almost been. The house felt different now. Smaller, charged. Saturday was closer than it looked, and for the first time since that toast, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was being invited. Curiosity is a dangerous emotion when it stops pretending to be innocent. I didn't go to the park that night. I slept, ate, let my body believe, just for a few hours, that I was still a normal man with a broken marriage instead of a developing case file. Saturday was coming whether I rushed or not, so I went in daylight. The amusement park looked smaller without music, like a carnival that had woken up sober and ashamed. Sun-bleached signs, locked gates, rides frozen mid-scream. The boardwalk boards creaked even when no one stepped on them, expanding and contracting like they were breathing on their own. I bought coffee from a stand across the street and sat on a bench where bored parents usually watched kids drop cotton candy. Now there were no kids, just wind and gulls and the smell of salt and rust. Security arrived at 10 sharp. One man, mid-40s, soft belly, stiff walk. He unlocked the side gate with a fob he kept clipped to his belt like it was a badge of honor. Grant Deller. I knew the name because Lana had mentioned him once months ago, casually, the way she mentioned things she thought didn't matter. The security guy here is harmless. Total idiot. Harmless men are always the most dangerous when they want to feel useful. I waited until he finished his perimeter walk before standing. Didn't rush, didn't sneak, walked straight up like I belonged there. Hey, I said. Grant turned, startled, then relaxed when he saw my face wasn't angry. Park's closed. I know, I said. My wife left her bracelet here last summer. Figured I'd check lost and found before it vanished forever. I smiled like a man tired of being married. Grant snorted. You wouldn't believe what people leave behind. Oh, I would, I said. That got me a grin. Men like Grant like to feel seen. I asked about his hours, about winter maintenance, about how boring it must be staring at rides that didn't move. Cameras do most of the work, he said proudly. We just make sure nobody gets clever. Anywhere they don't reach? I asked, like it was a joke. Grant laughed. Maintenance tunnels, old park, blind spots, but nobody goes down there anymore. Nobody honest, he meant. As he talked, I watched his hands. The way he tapped his key fob twice before unlocking the gate. The way he checked a clipboard tucked under his arm. Storage unit numbers scribbled in the margin. Routine leaves fingerprints if you know where to look. I thanked him, shook his hand, and walked away before curiosity turned into suspicion. Back home, I opened my laptop again. Not the shared album this time. Public pages, forums, lost and found posts, places where people forget to lie. I found it on the third page. A blurry photo posted 2 weeks ago. A silver bracelet with a tiny crack near the clasp. Lana's bracelet. The caption read, "Found near service entrance. Ask security. Timestamp, Saturday. 9:52 p.m. My phone buzzed again. Lana this time. Calling. I answered. You following me now? She asked. No greeting. No, I said. You're not interesting enough. She exhaled sharply. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself, I replied. I just used a microphone. Silence stretched. You need help, she said finally. Calm, concerned, recorded, if I had to guess. Maybe, I said, but not from you. I hung up before she could pivot. That night I drove past the park again. Didn't go in. Just watched. At 9:38 p.m., headlights appeared at the service entrance. At 9:41, a familiar sedan pulled in behind them. At 9:43, the gate opened. I stayed in my car, heart steady, phone recording only what any passerby could see. Wide shots, timestamps, nothing dramatic. At 9:45, a reflection flashed in my rearview mirror. Someone was watching me too. I didn't turn around. I didn't have to. Because my phone vibrated in my pocket with a single text from Tessa. He knows you're close. Be careful. And across the lot, the sedan's engine revved, just once, like a warning. Fear doesn't announce itself. It pretends to be curiosity until your legs start moving without permission. I stayed in the car for another 30 seconds, long enough to let the sedan think I hadn't noticed, long enough to let Evan decide whether he wanted to be brave or stupid. He chose movement. The sedan door opened, closed. A shadow crossed the service gate lights. I stepped out of my car. The boardwalk was empty, the kind of empty that makes every sound feel like it's meant for you. My shoes thudded softly against the wood, each step echoing farther than it should. Somewhere, a loose sign knocked gently against a pole. The wind carried laughter from an old speaker that hadn't been unplugged properly. Tinny, distorted, wrong. I kept my phone low, recording but not pointing. No hero angles, no drama, just proof that existed whether anyone believed it or not. Ahead, the maintenance door opened. Lana stepped through first. She was laughing. Head tilted back slightly, hair catching the light just enough to make it look accidental. Evan followed, one hand on her lower back like it belonged there, like it had a receipt. Behind them, Grant appeared, unlocking the door fully and stepping aside. Professional, efficient, invisible in his own mind. The door shut. I moved. Not fast, not slow. The trick was to look like I belonged in the mistake. I reached the corner of the arcade row when something went wrong. A reflection. Glass. My face, stretched and broken in a funhouse mirror I hadn't noticed. Evan noticed it too. He turned. Our eyes met for half a second. That was all it took. He ran. Not toward Lana. Away from her. That told me everything I needed to know about the shape of his courage. I followed. The boardwalk narrowed, then opened into a service corridor half lit by flickering fluorescence. Evan's shoes slapped against concrete, breath already ragged. He was faster than me in a straight line. I wasn't chasing him to win. I was chasing him to scare him. He cut left. I cut right. He ducked through a half-open gate, clipped it with his shoulder, cursed. I smiled without meaning to. He stumbled into a blind end, a loading bay stacked with tarps and rusted carts. He spun, hands up, chest heaving. "Don't," he said. "This isn't what you think." I stepped close enough that he could smell the coffee on my breath. "I don't think," I said. "I notice." He swung first. A wild shove, more panic than intent. I took it, staggered back a step, then stepped forward and slapped him. Not hard, just enough. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Evan froze, eyes wide, hand hovering near his cheek like he wasn't sure it was allowed to hurt. "I'm not here to hurt you," I said quietly. "I'm here to make tonight stick." He swallowed. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said. "I do," I replied. "That's the problem." Footsteps echoed from the corridor. Voices. Grant's, Lana's. Evan's eyes flicked past me, calculation replacing fear. He shoved me again and bolted. This time he dropped something. A lanyard slid across the concrete, stopping near my shoe. Park logo. A laminated tag with a handwritten number. Storage unit. I pocketed it. By the time I stepped back into the corridor, Lana was there. She stood perfectly still, phone already in her hand, camera angled just right. Her face was calm, almost pleased. "There you are," she said. "I was hoping you'd come." Grant hovered behind her, pale, unsure which side of the problem he belonged to. "You're trespassing," Lana said lightly. "And stalking. This is going to look very bad for you." I glanced at the phone. "Make sure you get my good side." Her smile tightened. "You're spiraling." "Maybe," I said. "But you're standing in a closed park at night with another man, so we're both making choices." For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Not fear, annoyance. "You don't understand," she said. "Evan is just convenient." That word landed harder than any slap. Sirens wailed somewhere far off, not for us, not yet, just enough to remind everyone that time existed. Lana lifted her phone higher. "I think you should leave," she said, "before you embarrass yourself again." I stepped back, not because she won, because I was done running, and because in my pocket the lanyard felt heavier than it should have. People like Lana don't panic when they lose control. They reorganize. By Monday morning, she had turned the story into something sleek and wearable, a version you could try on without getting your hands dirty. I knew this because 3 different people I barely spoke to texted me some variation of the same sentence. "Hey, are you okay?" "Lana says you've been acting intense." Intense. The adult word for we already chose aside. She suggested we meet to talk like grown-ups. Public place, neutral ground. A cafe near the marina where everyone pretended to work on laptops while listening to everyone else's conversations. I showed up early, picked a table with my back to the wall, ordered black coffee, watched the door. Lana arrived 5 minutes late, on purpose. Evan followed her in, on purpose. He didn't sit with us. He took a table close enough to hear, far enough to look respectful. The visual mattered. Lana smiled at me like we were old friends catching up after a misunderstanding. "I'm worried about you," she said softly. There it was. Opening line, concern as accusation. "I've been worried about me too," I said. "That's how I know this isn't it." She blinked once, recalculated. "You followed me," she said, loud enough for nearby ears to lean in. "You showed up at my work, at the park. This isn't healthy." "I went to a public place," I said. "You were there. With him." She shook her head, slowly, sadly, a performance worthy of applause. "You see how you say it? Like you're narrating a crime." Evan shifted in his seat, picked up his cup, put it down, the victim warming up. "I tried to calm him," Evan said gently, to no one in particular. "I told him Lana deserved space." I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Lana's eyes sharpened. This isn't funny. No, I agreed. But it is educational. She leaned forward. If you keep this up, people are going to think you're unstable. That word again. They loved it. Unstable meant they didn't have to listen. I finished my coffee and stood. Then we're done talking. She reached out, touching my arm just long enough for anyone watching to see intimacy. Please, she said. Don't do this. I looked down at her hand, then at Evan, then back at her. You already did, I said. Outside, my phone buzzed before I reached my car. Tessa, she's baiting you. They're trying to get you to explode. Evan's recording everything. I sat behind the wheel and breathed until my hands stopped wanting to shake. That night, I took a longer way home, made 3 unnecessary turns, stopped under a streetlight and waited. The same sedan rolled past, slowed, kept going. I called an old coworker and talked loudly on speaker about inventory shortages and delivery routes. Boring, documented, normal. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I saw the porch light on. Lana was inside, sitting on the couch like she belonged there, and for the first time, I understood something cold and clear. She wasn't afraid of what I knew. She was afraid I'd stop reacting, and that meant whatever came next wouldn't be quiet. Lana didn't stand when I came in. She sat with one leg crossed over the other, phone resting face down on her knee like a promise. Calm, composed. Already halfway through the version of the story where she'd survived something difficult and emerged admirable. You're home late, she said. You're home at all, I replied. We're both full of surprises. She smiled thinly. We need boundaries. I nodded. Funny. Evan said the same thing. That did it. Her jaw tightened just enough. She stood, walked past me, and grabbed her coat. I'm staying with a friend tonight. Don't follow me. I won't, I said. I don't chase people who already know where they're going. She paused at the door, glanced back. You think you're smarter than this? I am, I said. That's why you're nervous. She laughed softly and left. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Listen, Grant said, breathless. You don't know what you're stepping into. I know exactly what I'm stepping into, I replied. You just don't know where you're standing. Silence. Storage unit, he said finally. You shouldn't be near it. I already am, I said, and hung up. The facility sat behind the park like an afterthought. Rows of metal doors under harsh fluorescent lights. No shadows to hide in, no romance, just exposure. I parked under a camera, on purpose. Evan was already there, pacing, phone to his ear. Grant stood near him, arms crossed, trying to look authoritative. Lana arrived last. She took in the scene in one glance and exhaled through her nose. Annoyed, not scared. This is a mistake, she said. Then stop making them, I replied. Grant stepped forward. You need to leave. You're not authorized. Neither are you, I said calmly. But you keep unlocking doors anyway. His face went pale. Evan lunged verbally, not physically. You're trespassing. We can call the police. Please do, I said. I love witnesses. Lana shot Evan a look that said shut up. Then she walked to the unit and unlocked it. Inside wasn't chaos. It was planning. Furniture staged for photos, neutral colors, fake plants, ring lights, boxes labeled New Life, a suitcase filled with dresses I'd never seen her wear around me, and on a folding table, printed screenshots, my messages, cropped, out of order, edited to look desperate, aggressive, a draft narrative. I felt something snap into place, not anger, understanding. You were going to burn me, I said. She shrugged. I was going to survive. Evan moved toward me, too close. I stepped forward and slapped him again, open hand, sharp, final. He froze. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a pack of zip ties I'd bought on the way, and calmly looped them through his car door handles. Mirrors, too. Quick, efficient, nonviolent. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "Teaching you patience," I said. "You'll have time to think." Lana stared at me, not furious now, calculating. "You think this ends well for you?" she asked. "No," I said. "I think it ends loud." She lifted her phone and showed me a scheduled post. My husband's breakdown, publishing in 1 hour. I smiled. "Then we're both on a clock," I said, and walked away before she could stop me. The thing about traps is that they only work if the animal runs. I went home, not to hide, not to pack. Home because it was the one place Lana expected me to lose control. Walls do that to people. They echo old arguments. They make silence feel like judgment. Lana arrived an hour later. She didn't knock. She walked in like a woman returning from a spa weekend, calm, refreshed, already rehearsing forgiveness she didn't plan to give. Her phone was in her hand again, screen dark, camera ready. "You shouldn't be alone right now," she said. "You're not thinking clearly." "I cleaned the kitchen," I replied. "That usually helps." She smiled, tight. "You're deflecting." "I'm surviving," I said. "You're documenting." She moved slowly, deliberately, pacing the room. I recognized the rhythm. She was counting seconds, waiting for me to snap, to raise my voice, to become the man she'd already described to everyone else. "I talked to Evan," she said. "He's scared." "That makes one of us," I replied. Her eyes flashed. "He didn't deserve what you did." "I didn't deserve a toast," I said. "We all get surprises." A knock at the door cut the tension. Lana froze. So did I. I opened it to find Tessa again, this time without sunglasses, without excuses. Her face was blotchy, eyes wild, breathing shallow like she'd run the whole way. "He's outside," she said immediately. "Evan. He followed me." As if summoned, a shadow moved past the window. Evan on the porch, pretending to scroll his phone, pretending this was normal. Lana's voice went sharp. "Why are you here?" Tessa turned on her. "Because you promised me protection." Silence. The word promised sat heavy between them. "I did protect you," Lana said coolly. "You're just emotional." "No," Tessa snapped. "You used me." Evan stepped forward, hand reaching for the door. I moved first. I blocked the threshold with my body. Not dramatic. Not aggressive. Just present. "You don't live here," I said to Evan. "That's the rule." He leaned in, voice low. "You're making this worse." I tilted my head. Smile. The porch light snapped on. Across the street, a neighbor's doorbell camera blinked red. Evan stiffened. I lowered my voice. "Everyone's watching now." He stepped back. Inside, Tessa was crying openly. She told me what to say, what to hide. She said if I didn't help her, she'd let things slip about my divorce, about my mistakes. Lana's face didn't change, but her eyes did. Cold. Sharp. "You were sloppy," Lana said. "That's not my fault." That sentence ended something. Tessa reached into her bag with shaking hands and pulled out her phone. "You sent this to Evan," she said. "You told him how to push him, how to make him react." She pressed play. Lana's voice filled the room. Calm, instructional, detached. "If he starts asking questions, don't argue. Stay gentle. Make him feel like he's losing control. If he raises his voice, that's when you record." Lana stared at the phone like it was a foreign object. I stared at her like I was finally seeing the whole shape of the thing I married. Evan swore under his breath and backed down the steps. "You didn't think I'd keep that," Tessa whispered. Lana exhaled slowly. "You're all being dramatic." I stepped aside. "Get your things," I said. "All of you." Lana laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You think this is over?" "No," I said. "I think it's finally started." Outside, Evan's car engine roared to life, and my phone buzzed with a single new message from a number I didn't recognize. 10:15. If you want the truth, bring them. I smiled for the first time that night, because now the stage was set. I didn't reply to the message right away. That's another thing people get wrong about pressure. They think it forces action. Most of the time, it forces mistakes. Silence makes the other side fill the gaps, and they never fill them kindly. I drove to a diner off Route 6, one of those places that smelled like burnt coffee and old vinyl booths. The kind of place where nothing important ever happens, which is exactly why important conversations survive there. Tessa was already inside. She sat in the corner booth, shoulders hunched, fingers wrapped around a glass of water she hadn't touched. She looked like someone who'd finally stopped running and realized the ground was still moving. I didn't plan to betray her, she said as soon as I slid in across from her. I know, I replied. You plan to survive her. She laughed weakly. She made it sound reasonable, like we were all protecting each other. That's how control works, I said. It wears a friendly face. Tessa leaned forward. Evan isn't the problem you think he is. I know, I said. He's a tool. Her eyes widened. She told you. She didn't have to. Tessa took a breath. The toast wasn't impulsive. The divorce thing. She planned it. Weeks ago. She wanted the group to react together. Force loyalty. Anyone who hesitated would look suspicious. Anyone who cheered became invested. I nodded slowly. That fit. Lana didn't improvise humiliation. She scheduled it. She's been collecting things, Tessa continued. Screenshots, confessions, drunk voice notes. She keeps them like insurance. If a husband starts asking questions, she already has leverage on the wife. I stared at the table, feeling something colder than anger settle in my chest. And Evan? I asked. Evan was never special, Tessa said. He was useful. He pushes buttons. He records. He doesn't ask questions as long as he feels chosen. I thought of him running first, of the slap echoing louder than it should have. Grant? I asked. Tessa grimaced. She lets him feel important, that's all it takes. The waitress came by, asked if we wanted menus. We both shook our heads. What happens at 10:15? Tessa asked. They get the truth, I said. Not my version. Hers. I slid my phone across the table and showed her the draft I'd written. Short, factual, unemotional. No accusations. Just times, places, and Lana's own voice note queued up and ready. This ends her control, Tessa whispered. It ends the illusion, I corrected. Control dies loudly. We drove separately to the park. By the time I arrived, cars were already lining the service road. Not many. Enough. Husbands I recognized vaguely. Wives whose faces I'd seen in profile across dinner tables and birthday photos. Curiosity mixed with fear. A dangerous crowd. Lana was there too. Standing near the main pavilion, phone raised, smiling like she was about to deliver another toast. Evan paced behind her, jaw tight, energy jittery. He knew something had slipped beyond him. Tessa stepped out of her car and walked past Lana without stopping. That's when Lana's smile finally faltered. Don't do this, Lana said, not to me, but to the crowd. He's manipulating you. I stepped forward into the open space, heart steady. No, I said. I'm done reacting. I tapped my screen. The park speakers crackled, old, unreliable, perfect. Lana's voice filled the pavilion, calm, precise. If he raises his voice, that's when you record. A murmur rippled through the group. Evan bolted, not away from Lana, away from everyone. I chased him, not to catch him, but to finish it where there were no filters left. The funhouse corridor swallowed us in warped mirrors and half-lit laughter. Evan slipped, cursed, panicked. I reached the exit first and dropped the maintenance latch. He hit the door once, twice. Behind us, footsteps thundered closer. I turned, met his eyes through the glass. This is where it sticks, I said quietly. The crowd rounded the corner. Lana screamed his name, and I stepped back into the light, letting everything crash at once. Noise hit all at once. Voices overlapping, shoes scraping concrete. Someone laughing because their brain couldn't keep up with what their eyes were seeing. Someone else swearing under their breath, low and stunned. Evan pounded the glass again, then stopped when he realized every phone was up. That's when fear finally found him. Not the fear of me, the fear of witnesses. Lana pushed through the crowd, heels useless on the uneven floor, face twisted into something raw and unpracticed. "Open it," she snapped at me. "Right now." I didn't move. "Tell them," I said calmly. "Tell them why he ran." Her mouth opened, closed. She looked around, searching for the version of reality that used to obey her. Tessa stepped forward before Lana could find it. "She planned it," Tessa said, voice shaking but loud. "The toast, the divorce announcement, all of it. She told us to cheer so no one would dare question her later." A murmur spread, husbands turning to wives, wives avoiding eye contact, old arguments waking up all at once. Lana laughed sharply. "You're listening to her? She's unstable. She always has been." Tessa didn't flinch. She held up her phone. "And this?" she asked, pressing play. Another recording, short, unpolished. Lana's voice again, impatient this time. "If any of them hesitate, remind them what I know. Nobody wants their marriage audited by the group. That did it." A woman near the back covered her mouth. A man said Lana's name like a question that didn't want an answer. Evan slid down the glass door inside the funhouse, suddenly very small, very ordinary. I walked to his car, not slowly, not fast, purposefully. I took the folded vinyl sheet from my trunk, the one I'd had printed that afternoon at a shop that didn't ask questions, and laid it across his windshield. Big letters, black on white. Not her first. Washable. Harmless. Devastating. Evan shouted something I didn't hear. I didn't turn around. Behind me, Lana screamed, not words, just sound. Pure loss of control, the kind she'd spent years avoiding. I faced her then, finally. "You wanted a story," I said. "You wanted everyone in it." The crowd pressed closer, not aggressive, hungry. "I didn't follow you," I continued. "I didn't spy. I didn't trap you. I just stopped protecting your version of things." Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the ground. For the first time since I'd known her, Lana looked unsure of what to say. I stepped past her, past the park lights, past the frozen rides, toward the open gate where the night waited without commentary. Behind me, everything collapsed at once. Arguments igniting, names shouted, phones ringing, relationships cracking in real time. I didn't look back, because revenge isn't about watching the damage. It's about knowing exactly when to leave while it's still falling. Lana took a step after me. Just one. The kind people take when they've spent their whole life believing the world will adjust if they move first. "Eli, wait," she said. Not loud, not for the crowd, for me. I stopped. I didn't turn around. Behind me, the silence was worse than the shouting. Silence meant people were thinking, and thinking was the one thing she had never been able to manage. "You ruined everything," she said. I turned then. "No," I said. "I stopped carrying it." Her face searched mine like it was scrolling through old versions of me, looking for the one who explained himself, who softened his words, who apologized for tension he didn't create. That man wasn't there anymore. Inside the funhouse, Evan hit the glass again. Not angry now, not defiant, just scared. The sound echoed through warped mirrors and broken laughter, thin and desperate. Phones stayed up. No one moved to help him. Lana glanced at the crowd, then back at me. For the first time, her voice cracked, not with sadness, but with panic. "You think this makes you the good guy?" she asked. I shook my head. I stopped auditioning for that role. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, trying one last time to pull it private. "We could still fix this. You don't have to leave like this." I looked past her, to the ride platform, the frozen lights, the people who finally saw the cost of cheering at the wrong moment. This, I said quietly, is the only way it ends. Another pound from inside the funhouse, Evan shouting my name now, begging without meaning to. I turned away. As I walked through the open gate, the park lights flickered, once, twice, then surged back on, flooding the pavilion behind me in harsh white. The crowd erupted all at once. Arguments, accusations, names thrown like broken glass. I didn't look back. Because the revenge wasn't the noise. The revenge was knowing she'd never control the silence again.